So, genuinely speaking, there are only two ways that you can mess up your life, right? First, if you live your life without mission. Mission is not a goal. A lot of people make mistake. Mission is your overall end goal. 50 years old, billionaire yachts, private jets, 9 kids at least, etc. Full picture. This is your mission, right? The goals are all the small steps that every day or week you should make. And these small goals, they basically give you self accountability. Am I on the right path to the overall mission or not? Should I fly to Monaco to do meetings with people who can actually, provide opportunities for billion-dollar acquisition? Yes or no? Should I fly to Chicago to buy, pre-owned yachts that I can actually move from the lake to New York City? Yes or no? That's the overall idea here. So this is why, living your life without mission, 100% you will fail because you don't really have nothing to measure with or for, which automatically means you live your day, week, month without any goals, which makes your life completely irrelevant, boring, whatever, purposeless, if this is even a word, okay? Second, lack of self-accountability. So this is very, very connected to the first point, right? Surely you can have a very, very clear mission. But if you don't have self-accountability to follow up on the mission progress, you're not going to make it, right? This is similar to the credit score. Some of the apps already have like a special plans where you set up a goal. For example, I want my credit score by the end of this year to be 800. And every single week you get an update of your credit score, how well you're doing, you're paying on time, utilization, etc. Same formula could be applied. If you really think about this one, right? You just combine the mission with an actual self-accountability, and then you get basically a balance sheet performance, how further away or close to the actual mission completion or objective completion you are, right? That's what is very important. Two-step process. I want you to think about this two-step process. Very easy to understand, right? So if you can get that, it will be very, very easy to proceed because think about it. The first step is very easy, right? If you think about it, the way I explained to you, right? So if you explain, right, the mission with them and they understand the mission, then they can actually follow up with goals. They can set up like weekly, monthly schedule, and they can simply follow up with small steps. No one said that I need to acquire the yacht by 2028, like 3 years from now. No. But the main perspective here is that you can have the self-accountability attached to the mission, which kind of give you direction, Are you on the right path? Yes, no, maybe, whatever, right? And this is very important because if you actually achieve this faster than expected, you can build up another mission with another self-accountability steps, and then you can just get more and more successful. And I truly believe this is how, Musk and Jeff Bezos and other guys simply going higher and higher. They're getting more and more successful in completely different niches. And this is all, again, different mission, different self-accountability sheet. You follow through, you win, you continue. This is why you probably already heard that, there is no such thing as this end game. That's what I was trying to explain earlier, right? Because if you really think about it, when Elon completed the first objective, right, for the cars, he didn't stop. That's the whole point of it. He didn't stop. The main point was that he completed the mission much earlier. He was thinking that it will take 30 years for Tesla and 35 years for SpaceX. But he completed both missions, which were missions, much earlier, except the Mars, right, for SpaceX. But it's on schedule to be accomplished soon. So if you progress faster in your mission, you have a very high chance to pick up on different important matter. He picked up on Neuralink. He picked up on Starlink, right? He picked up on different, also equally, some of which even more important projects. But think about if he didn't have any mission, if he just randomly started a startup like many people do today. Do you think he would be able to accomplish or succeed in any of the companies? I heavily doubt it. Because he has a self-accountability and he puts the self-accountability on the team. He goes to the factory, what's happening, why all these cars are here. We have a bunch of, cars that are ordered, no deliveries, were behind schedule, etc., right? This is how he did the self-accountability on his own. Then he reinforced the self-accountability to the team. Then, effectively, you don't have Elon Musk's mindset once in the company, you have it spread within the whole team. So now everyone thinks like Elon Musk, right? And this, again, comes with the two-step process. Set up the mission and put up the accountability, which comes with all the goals that I said. It's very simple. It's nothing that they will try to explain to you that you should follow. Just break down the process into steps. The one that I told you. Just put up the mission, put up the goals, follow the reinforcement, and basically that's supposed to be. Just look at the results, right? Yeah. All the 17 steps to unlimited success in business, all this nonsense, content, books, videos, whatever. Put Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, all of these guys follow through two-step process. They may not realizing it in real time as they do, right? But if you ask them, looking back in time, this is exactly what they have done. Just try it. Just give it a shot and think about it. Because everything else, I believe you, already hasn't worked and has failed, right? I believe already the books that you have read, all the things that you went to seminars, all the trainings that you do, coaching, mentorship, I believe none of it actually worked. That's why you're watching this video, because you really want to find out, okay, how the hell other people getting so much done with so little effort, right? Or so little input? Well, my friend, the answer is concentration, focus, and two-step process, which is easy to understand and follow through, right? Just think about how many people are starting books and they don't complete the books. Why don't complete the books? Well, they don't complete the books because the process is too complicated. They want to set up an author, they want to set up someone who's walking around writing, taking notes, they want to set up someone. So they try to build this very complex system to accomplish something relatively easy. Anyone can walk around with voice recorder, record their thoughts, and in the end just hand out the file to the publishing company, which will do the edits and print and establish the content, right? It's always something that could be done much easier, more effective, faster, and efficient, right? That's why I truly believe that you don't really need to reinvent anything. It's probably the biggest trap of every person who wants to become an entrepreneur, because they want to become, they haven't done anything. The people who already built stuff successfully, they already know that this is the wrong path, trying to reinvent something. No, if you already have a successful company, you already know that this is probably the worst decision you could take, the worst path, trying to build something from scratch, reinventing something. Even Elon Musk didn't reinvent the electric vehicles, right? He perfected something that existed in the past with a team that has never been teamed together, right? He assembled a team of people who never worked together. This is why they come up with something that wasn't out there. Same thing with Apple, with iPhones, right? Touchscreen has always been out there before Apple iPhones, but no one actually used it for that. So you just take something that has been working and apply it to something that hasn't been applied yet. During the presidency of FDR, right at the peak of the Great Depression, the great contraction and lack of liquidity on the open market put the president in the position of seizure of the gold. Everyone who possesses anything that was gold has to sell the gold to the Federal Reserve at the fixed rates. In this way, he will fund the New Deal, which pumped new money into the economy and forced people to spend the money to increase the liquidity, because back then, at the peak of the Great Depression, no one was spending any money. Not only people didn't have enough, but people who had some, they were afraid that they will not be able to earn any single dollar in the future, because during the peak of the Great Depression, there was no real way out of the situation. No one, even on the political side, was not capable to predict something else to be fixed in a very short manner. This is why people were holding the gold, they were hoping and they were hedging against even worsening the situation. Very important is that during the President Gerald Ford, he actually removed the restrictions and made it again legal for people to own gold. Very interesting. Later, in the historical sense, when the gold was depegged from the gold standard during the Bretton Woods meeting, a lot of people expected the gold price to actually see a major decline. Why? Because if the gold was not backed by actual fiat currency back then, a lot of people were expecting that the value of the gold will not be as substantial and it will not remain high or it will not increase. What actually happened was that once when the gold was freely available for trading, people were buying even more. This actually pumped the prices. This also increased the government ownership in gold. Other countries who were, most of which poor, realized that their currency, their fiat currency, will most likely suffer from the dollar becoming a global currency of acceptance, which meant that they understand that there is nothing equal anymore. If prior gold backed with dollar and other currencies being in some shape or form backed with gold makes them in some way equal and preventing them in some way from deflation or making their currency worth less, this was no longer the case because the gold was depegged, the gold was a free asset traded on the open market, and then every currency should have built the trust on its own. And remember, each of these currencies worth more only if the country's economical status is progressing, only if the country is doing a lot of international deals, is doing a lot of international trade agreements. But most countries didn't have much to offer in terms of trade, international trade. This meant that a lot of their currency devaluation was extremely high. You can look at China 25, 30 years ago, they were extremely poor. Very, very poor, like no middle class. And look at them now, right? They're developing very, very fast. Their GDP is growing very fast. They're catching up on all technologies. And all this happened because they increase their international trade agreements. They start exporting more and more. They start producing more and more. This is what I meant, that the national currency of each country only means something when the country has a substantial, predictable economic growth or economic path. This is why you will see on countries that have a very bad political systems, that have a huge uncertainty, their country currency worth nothing. This is probably the easiest way for you to evaluate a particular country. If you want to move into this country, probably you like the country, but you know nothing about the politics or the economic stance of the country. Just look at the currencies over time. Just look at the performance or the currencies over 3 years, 5 years period, 10 years period. If we assume that every campaign or every mandate of the political figures is 4 to 5 years, just look at what is the trend. What was the trend for the last 2 different presidents? Did the currency continue to go down or currency remain steady? In Europe, for example, a lot of countries who didn't accept the euro when they joined the European Union, they had a fixed rate, their local currency fixed rate with the euro. So the people in this country didn't lose nothing. Every time when they want to exchange the local currency into $1, €1, the currency exchange rate was always the same. Everything was fixed, so there was no variable exchange rate. Everything was predictable. This meant all of these countries can continue using their local currency, and their local currency was valuable because they had a fixed exchange rate with the euros. So people who want to trade with this country, they weren't afraid to take the local currency in exchange when they do imports or exports, because they always knew that if they want to exchange this local currency after the trade with euro, they have a fixed exchange rate, so they're not going to lose anything on the side. This is why I want you to think about why, and if the gold hype continues, how many countries will try either to back their local currency with Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin works in the sense of a gold, limited supply, it's very precious and valuable, and a lot of banking institutions currently are allowing their customers to buy Bitcoin through the ETFs. A lot of banks soon will allow people to borrow against their Bitcoin holdings. A lot of well-known companies currently are accepting Bitcoin as a payment method. We're talking about Ferrari. You can go and buy a car. You can buy an apartments or houses in Dubai or other places around the world who accept that. So effectively, you realize that more and more economy is moving away from the fiat currency towards something that is either gonna be some shape or form of a gold standard, Bitcoin standard, something that will be a complement to the normal fiat currencies, because inflation is always something that changes the mind of people using particular payment method. If we go back again and look at the Great Depression, the first thing that actually happened after the stock market crash was people saw lack of liquidity, no money left because everyone was doubled down on the markets, institutions, individuals. Second thing, people saw that there is no transactions anywhere, so all the businesses shut down. No one went to the store to buy anything. People line up on the streets to wait to get government SNAP benefit food or that sort of things, like food and you know, I don't know, some coupons for something. The next thing actually happened was the devaluation, which a lot of people saw as, okay, I had equities, I had stocks, the market crashed, these stocks worth nothing. Then I had dollars, very few left, people who were lucky to have something left. But then they saw that they cannot buy absolutely anything because there was a major devaluation, because everyone else now was actually trying to acquire gold in a sense of coins, jewelries, like things that were meant to be something else, not as an investment. Back then, gold was not investment. Back then, gold was jewelry, was something fancy that you know, people have. And the poor people in Europe during this time, who, you know, can't afford to buy gold, they were buying pots and pans that are made of aluminum, that are made from different precious metals that they hope they will preserve certain value. One day, if they need money, they can melt them, or they can sell them to somebody who is gonna melt them and still preserve their small net worth. Right? This was a crazy panic, crazy times where remember, there's a major disinformation back then. No internet. Even the radio was not widely popular. Not everyone has a radio, right? If you live in the remote area.